Hello, welcome to the basement. I found a newspaper sitting and I was like, why would I have done this? Why would I have kept this? And it does have a thing about Red Knights offset bound. Overtime goal at district semifinal sends them to provincials. But I thought, no, I don't think I would have saved that because at the time, in March 2003, I was long since graduated and I was working at Lawrence Park College. So I opened this up and I thought, why did I save this? There must be something. And so I flipped through. This would be 21 years ago or so. And I did find, eventually, no, not there. There is more. Sunnybrook Cancer Clinic streamlines after hours service. Aha! Lawrence Park iced by North Toronto in semis. Indeed. Yes. I was sucked into hockey. I was not a hockey player. I enjoyed street hockey, played the occasional thing, skated some, actually almost died in a hockey accident, which was, pleasure skating and stuff, and somebody whaled a puck and nailed me right here, just above the temple. Blood everywhere. But I survived. No damage. No lingering damage. Anyway, so I got sucked into coaching hockey by a fellow who was retiring from Lawrence Park Collegiate. His name was Bob McAleese, and sadly he died during COVID, so I was not able to go, as many people did not get to have the send-off they really deserved. But anyway, here is a picture of the team. I guess that was what we put in the yearbook, and I, of course, would have taken the picture, so I am not in it. But yes, Lawrence Park Panthers had what could have been a championship winning season ended with a 6-1 playoff loss to North Toronto. And as I look here, I see many familiar faces. One who actually became a teacher, who I've since seen occasionally. I don't know where she is now. Others are still Facebook friends, although Facebook wasn't around then, so we sort of found each other afterwards. I'm just trying to look. Hey. Don't flash you, light. Where is our goal? Hey, what's going on here? Ugh. Anyway, this was a year where we essentially, from what I remember, we really didn't have a goalie who, from the outside world. So we had a girl who would play goal. And she was the bravest soul I've ever met. She was. And how did we get to the... I guess it was a championship game. Was because she was not the best goalie, but she was what we had, and she tried hard, and everybody cherished her. So nobody went out on the ice for a skate. Everybody did everything they could to not let anybody score or shoot at her. And sadly, we also had the trouble that year. We weren't the most high scoring of teams. This is not a good combination. Anyway, so oftentimes we would outshoot teams 55-5. and the final score would be 2-2. Of course, the best strategy when you don't want people to shoot on your goalie is make sure you're down there shooting it there. Anyway, let's read it. I haven't read this in years. It was a roller coaster of a season, David Bradley, head coach of the Lawrence Park girls hockey team, said. We started off strong with a 4-game undefeated streak, only to lose 4 straight. We were able to rebound and win our last 2 critical games, but unfortunately, we faltered in the playoffs. The Lawrence Park Panthers finished the regular season in a 3-way tie for second place alongside North Toronto and Richview in their semifinal playoff matchup as the 2 seed. In their semifinal playoff match, as the number 2 seed on the tiebreakers, they squared off against North Toronto and were defeated handily in a 6-1 romp by the eventual Toronto South and West District Girls Hockey Championships. At press time, North Toronto had qualified for Ulster with a victory over York Mills March 4th and was preparing for their showdown in the Toronto District game with Birchmount Park of Scarborough, March the 5th. For the Lawrence Park Panthers, it was a disappointing end to a season in which a championship seemed very possible. The season had been incredibly enriching and enjoyable for everyone. The girls were superb ambassadors for Lawrence Park, said Bradley. Recently, I received an email from a fellow coach complimenting us on our sportsmanship and how we conducted ourselves through good times and bad, much of which will be in question next season, with the veteran coach Bradley leaving Lawrence Park due to recent reassignment of hall monitors throughout the Toronto District School Board. One major strength was communication between us and the coaches on and off the ice. Coach Bradley was an integral part of the team, and it will never be the same without him, said assistant captain Deirdre Morris. Over the course of the season, the team was led by Captain Megan Howitt and goal-scoring phenom Braden Ferguson. Over her 5 years of girls hockey, Megan has grown into a leadership role through hard work, dedication, and a fierce competitive nature. Picking her as captain this year was a decision that I never second-guessed, said Bradley. Braden has a slap shot that still echoes in my ears. She is fast, maneuverable, and she can really fill the net. When a safe lead has been established, she works twice as hard to try and set up her teammates. Her sportsmanship, talent, decision-making, and unselfish nature are what make her a great player and a person on and off the ice. Although a large number of players will be graduating this June, Ferguson and other key team members will be returning next year. The future for girls hockey at Lawrence Park in terms of quality of players returning looks strong, although it remains to be seen how the loss of coach David Bradley will impact the team. Well, they carried on. And yes, that was a tough time when along came amalgamation, and the Toronto Board of Education had we people, such as we were called hall monitors. Other places in the board did not. And as I have said many, many times, they should have looked to we who had done the job to train more people or help more people, and put more people in more schools. But instead, what they decided is, we are going to scatter them. And so I was on my way. Mind you, I was helped along unintentionally. I worked with a fellow who had retired, but he was in a different role. He was what they called a paraprofessional. He was not a hall monitor or safety monitor or whatever. But when they went to replace him, they decided that they would do another hall monitor, which they should not have done. So in came a fellow who had more seniority than I. Was he better with the community and the students and the children and everybody? No. I remember, we'd be headed somewhere at maybe 9:30 in the morning, and he'd say, only 6 hours till I get to go home. Anyway, whereas I did not watch the clock. I dealt with whatever needed to be dealt with and did everything possible. Because here's the thing about being a hall monitor. You don't just stand there in the halls and say, get to class. That is, some people think that's what you do. You just chase people. Well, I find that is a rather small, narrow minded view of the job. Um, you are a presence, an adult presence, an approachable presence, a helpful presence. And it's one of those things where if you do your job well, then people will get to class not because you're yelling at them, but because you're not. And because you just say, hello, how you doing? Welcome. Nice to see you. How you doing? Have a good day. And you talk to them about, gee, I heard your volleyball team did well. Or I heard you're in the play. Or I heard you're running for student council. Or, you take an interest and you care about what's going on. Anyway, now it's funny because I was not a hockey person, and how I became the head coach was, well, I got sucked in by the fellow who was retiring, and he kept coming back um, to help out, but then eventually he didn't, and then was like, and a number of times I thought, well, that's enough, and then of course along would come the girl people, and they'd say, gee, are you going to coach next year or this year or whatever? It's like, yes, yes, I will. Actually, in looking at this picture, I think this was not actually the year we had no goalie. That was another year, I believe. Anyway, we did okay, and I would like to think that many of the girls look back on our. I mean, the season was not long, but as it was a good time, and that they enjoyed themselves, and that we did work well together. And indeed, we got into a game once where girls were coming off the ice. They had holes in their socks and their shin pads because this girl on North Toronto, who didn't go to North Toronto. See, there was a whole thing where you could twin with another school, but it meant that two schools that didn't really have enough for a team could come together. Well, there was a really great player who supposedly had been kicked out of other, competitive hockey things because she played dirty and did bad things. But when North Toronto was given the chance to have her join the team, even though she'd been banished, they said, "Oh yeah, that's great." So it meant that one of the teachers from her school had to come to the games, and I'm assuming they did. But anyway, so these girls are coming off the ice with, like, certainly they're hurt, but also this girl has been kicking basically with her knife on her foot into their shin pads and poking through not just the sock, but damaging the shin pad. I'm like, whoa, what is this? So we did bring this up to the referee, which, I mean, it's hard to see in the midst of things, but it did end up in a kerfuffle at the end of the game where a player who is a great goal scorer, who I'd never even heard say a harsh word, um, got up in this girl's face, and I was in the middle, and thankfully nothing came. Nothing, but anyway, but then of course the people of North Toronto were always, oh, that's terrible. These things should be settled on the ice. So anyway, I do remember writing a thing saying, kicking with a skate blade in the shins has no place in hockey, and um, so if you don't want to end up in altercations after the game, um, then you really need to make sure that such things aren't happening in the game. And um, and really, their desire and their craving to win, because this girl was a good player, but she was a dirty player. And they just were like, win, 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 win at all costs, win at all costs. And yeah, we enjoyed winning, but it was also about building community, building teamwork, and good sportsmanship. And, you know, like the girl there mentioned there who became the captain, first time I ever met her, it was she was in grade 9. It was our first tryout thing. And we were just kind of getting started, and she came over to the bench and said, "I think I'm going to throw up." So we said, "Okay, go, go, go." Anyway, there were parents and other people down at, and she went off the ice and she got herself settled and she came back, and we were very glad she did because she was very talented, incredibly talented, and it was really wonderful to watch her literally grow into the role of captain and grow into, as one teacher, I should call him, Roger McNeil, said, a fully formed human in mental capacities, and like she really became a school leader, a team leader, and she actually went into rugby. I think she actually did on occasion play on the Canadian national rugby team for women, I think. Anyway, great person, great family, great thing. Actually, her mother, I did not know this until years later, but her mother, I have an autistic nephew named Nathan, and when he was little, there were people in the neighborhood who would volunteer to take Nathan for walks, and apparently she was one of them. I had no clue. Anyway, you know what? The whole reason I coached, as the lady who first got me to go to Lawrence Park is, she said, soon what you do will be secondary to why you're here. And indeed, getting involved in hockey was not my thing, but I did it because it was needed. But also, it served the main purpose I was there, and that is, there were many, there'd be uncles and aunts and fathers and brothers and sisters and mothers and grandparents and all kinds of people who'd come to the hockey games. And sometimes before or after the games, they would talk about other things. For example, they'd heard something in the neighborhood, or they'd seen something, or they were concerned about something. I said, "Oh," and we could work on the issues of the neighborhood, the school, or whatever it was. And why did they talk to me? Well, I was there. Well, I was approachable, and so we did have it. It really did serve well, and the whole season was not all that long. It was not. It was not. Anyway, they were good memories, good times. We did, and there, there was always issues going on, but anyway, I will save this. Perhaps I will find a frame for it. I will. So, on the front of this, I will take my blue Sharpie. Ooh, because I found this. I was like, why did I keep this? LPCI hockey. And I will set that aside. Anyway, if any of the girls who were on the team of any of the 10 years are out there and they see this, just, you know what? Thanks for the memories. It was fun. It was challenging. And we all grew together. We did. And, it's funny. The most challenging students sometimes teach you more than you teach them. I've heard many teachers say this. And we really didn't have a whole bunch of, I mean, there's always issues. There's always challenges. There's always little things, and people aren't feeling well, or whatever. They can't. There's always, but really, it was it was a great thing, and I guess I was probably involved for in the vicinity of 10 years, and yeah, we they were special days and special times. And mind you, that was all before amalgamation, and when the administrators, the vice principals and principals, it used to be the vice principals and principals, who were known as the vice principal teachers and principal teachers, were still part of the OSSTF, and management started at the superintendent level. Well, they changed that. That was Mike Harris. He took them out, and they became not principal teachers, but I guess principal administrators. And that has changed education in Ontario, and it's not for the better. And really, by now, all the old school principals who just carried on as they did are long gone, and now we have administrators. And there are some good ones. There are. But I talked to a fellow who recently, he was 81 and he finally retired. And one of the reasons he retired is because, you get all these, like he'd been doing the job for like 30 years or so, I think, maybe 25. Anyway, and you get these brand new green administrators who have no clue what they're doing, but they won't ask for help. So they do things that aren't smart and aren't good and just turn into more trouble and more trouble. And when they're surrounded by, in this case there were two guys at the school where he worked. They'd been together a long time. They knew all the ins and outs, and they were happy to share what they knew. Now, still, it's up to the administrator to make the decision, but still, like, these are human resources. So use them, listen to, then, decide what you're going to do, but, like, ask. Feel, like, no one's going to criticize you for trying to gather the best information you can to make the best decision for the situation. But oh no. And then, of course, you run into, it's that whole thing of they're not principal teachers anymore, they're principal administrators. So if you come to them with a delicate situation, um, not always, but sometimes they get irked because whatever the student or the teacher or community member, whatever, that brought this to your attention, they're like, oh, well, why did I'm the principal? Why didn't they come to me? And really irrelevant. We got the information. I'm passing it on. Don't shoot the messenger. But sadly, more often than not, their ego gets in the way of just saying, oh, okay, there's an issue. I'm aware of it. I will do the best that I can to resolve it. And I will be thankful that I know about it rather than not know about it. Yeah. Anyway. Thanks for the memories. Girls of Lawrence Park, boys of Lawrence Park, teachers of Lawrence Park, community members. I especially miss, there was a fellow who, there was a ravine near the school, and he would walk his dog through there. And of course, some of our young people would decide to go to the ravine to partake in activities that were not school sponsored. And the students never knew this, but basically, the best way to get information is not ask for it. But anyway, this guy would see me around. We'd say hi, 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 and then we got to talking, and then he figured out. Well, I told him what I did and what was, whatever, and so he became my sort of quiet intelligence agent, not the CIA, but just like, oh, an undercover, confidential informant, and he would just. It wasn't like he ever phoned me because it wasn't like in the era of cell phones or text messages or whatever. But he would just keep me posted on the things that he'd been seeing in the ravine and when and etc. And that was all very helpful. It was. I also remember, this was so silly. One day I went into the office and said, do you know what they're doing? She said, oh yeah, they're delivering rocks. And they were rocks. They were putting these rocks around trees and things and stuff. I said, no, this is not good. This is going to be horrible. People are going to throw them. Oh, no, 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 they won't do that. I said, mulch is a good thing. Like dried up tree branches, not branches, bark and stuff that they, grind up. That's a great thing. Rocks are not good. So I had actually stopped them from dumping any. So let me go in. Wait a second. There must be a mistake here. And they said, oh, no, 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 this will be great. About 6 weeks later, the head secretary said, we got to get rid of these rocks. We had complaints from the community, complaints from the police, complaints from all over the place. And as I had a not so wonderful driveway, I said, I will take them. So every day I had my old station wagon and I would show up do my thing. And at the end of the day, I had a whole bunch of buckets and things. And by the way, these rocks were heavy. I had a whole bunch of buckets and things in the back of the thing, and I would take my shovel and I would fill them up and take them away. And also, I would go, oftentimes on the weekends, I'd go, depending on what was going on, I might go 4 or 5 times and get more rocks and dump them on the driveway, dump them on the driveway. Anyway, it's funny because a couple of times she was going, so what are you doing? And I told her, well, I work here and this is the situation and this is why I'm doing it. Um, but I did say, if you don't believe me, I mean, just call the police. That'll be fine. I'll talk to them. But apparently one day somebody saw me, and then several weeks later they called the school about this, and the principal called me, and she said, there's some ladies called about, these rock things, and I said, well, I talked to a couple of people, and I don't remember anybody of that description, and seemed very upset. And anyway, apparently she did show up one day, and I talked to her. I said, if like 8 weeks ago when I was doing this, you really thought I was stealing the rocks, you should have called the police, not waited like 2 months to tell the school, by the way, there's somebody taking rocks. Anyway. Ooh. Anyway, so basically they were looking at then having to pay hundreds of dollars to get these rocks removed. And I said, I'll take care of it. And I did. And I still, when we moved, which I never should have moved, I wasn't able to take all the rocks at all, but I did bring some. I did. Anyway, enough of the stories of Lawrence Park Collegiate Institute, a school where my father actually graduated in probably 1950. Um, enough. So I will continue to dig around in the basement. I shall. I'm just looking at the time. We're doing okay. And I will find other things. I will save these papers. What am I doing? What have I got here? Oh, yes. A fine, stylish hat. Fine. Oh, by the way, this picture here. I took this. I think I showed this already at one point. I took this picture. I actually got trapped. My car was on the far side of the tracks, and I got trapped having to watch this huge train go by. And it was cold. But that's what you do when you're serious about photography. You do what you need to do to get the shot. See, I had looked from the other side because I knew the train would be coming at some point, but it just didn't look good. But this, the light and the trees and the wires and the way the clouds were and everything, I said, this is where I got to be. Unfortunately, I was parked on the other side of the track. Anyway, well, thanks for coming to the basement. We'll see you again. Have a lovely, lovely day. Bye for now. Oh.